Welcome to 365 Brothers. Our episode today features a man who is a pilot, a businessman. He has experience in multiple industries. Pilot? This guy is so multi-talented, a musician, and I could go on and on. You'll start to hear who he is as this interview continues. With that, Tyrone Lane White.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is good to have you on. You are the reason for this podcast. You are so unique, so multi-talented, and I just am clear people need to know this life. Tell me a little bit about you.
I'm a young man who was born in Tulare, California, in the Central Valley, in the middle of cotton and cows. And for those who might not know where Tulare is, Central Valley, center of the state between Los Angeles and San Francisco. This is where all your actual milk, your cheese, almonds and raisins and cotton come from. It's a very rich agricultural area and with a lot of great people. So I'm proud to be a member, coming from that small community. And then from there, went to Fresno State and graduated in 1989. And I've stayed in the area. I'm in a little town called Clovis, California, kind of a suburb of Fresno. A father and a husband and entrepreneur and a pilot. And so I just had a wonderful, great life, even as a Black man growing up in the United States.
Let's dive on in. You're a musician, so I already know that there's, so many. It'll be hard to pick just one. But for today, what would you say is your favorite song?
Being a musician, playing in jazz bands and playing in gospel groups, it's going to be hard to narrow it down. But I guess if I have to come up with just one song, it'd probably have to be September by Earth, Wind and Fire. And that's because it reminds me so much of my wife, her being born in September. And it's such a wonderful, upbeat tune that everybody knows. And, it's kind of like Celebration, It's one of those tunes that as soon as you hear that, dun, 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 you're like, hey! and it's universal around the world, So.
Yes, I love that song too. And I love that it how it's related to your wife. That's really sweet. Tell me about a favorite childhood memory.
A couple of things. One is I was always playing my instruments, my bass guitar or my trumpet. I would take my bass amp, and this is back in the days where you didn't have, all the fancy stuff you have now, but I would take my bass amp and I would plug my little boom box into the amp, and I would play over songs like Herb Alpert's and Aretha Franklin's, that gospel album she had come out in the late 70s, and I would just play all day long. My neighbors would say, man, we're so tired of hearing you play. But I mean, to me, it was like, oh, I'm in concert all the time, and from morning to evening, I would just be playing, my trumpet or my bass guitar. And then during the summer, my fondest memories is my brother and my sister, Tony and Donna, we would go across the street from where we lived. We had a community center. It was a swimming pool. And we would just swim all day long. And when we'd come out, we would just be some ashy Black folks. I mean, red eyes and ashy skin. And then we'd come home and Mom would have, some big meal cooked for us, fried chicken or some pot of beans or something, but it was just good times.
Wow, that sounds awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. We're going to move into your accomplishments. Now, We've already started this interview, so I mean, there's more than we could cover. That's why I make people limit this. What accomplishment is the most meaningful for you personally? And then sometimes it's the same, but sometimes it's different from the accomplishment that other people, the accomplishment that they're wowed by when they hear it. So.
Well, I think for my personal accomplishment, it would be being a great father. I would think I'm a great father, right, Brittany? No, she's upstairs. Anyway, Just being a hands-on dad, from the day my wife was pregnant, being there during the birth, always being there for their support for when they were in school plays, or there were proms, homecoming. I've always wanted to be a hands-on father and be visible for them, as well as the people in the community, to know that, here's a Black man that really supports and is behind his family and is out in front. So, if there was any meetings at the school, I was there. I'm really proud of that.
Thank you. One of the things that I also hear is, and you said it's the two parts, that you wanted to be there first and foremost for your children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I also hear a desire to represent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it stems from, my dad died when we were so young, and he had a stroke and passed away. And to see my mom, she never remarried, but to see how strong she was, and not a lot of money, but we never wanted for anything. Matter of fact, and I don't know if Donna ever mentioned this to you, but we were really poor until we got to college. And then we had rich roommates, and like, wow, but what we had, we enjoyed. My mom was involved with us, all three of us, by herself. She never missed a thing. And so that's really what, that foundation came from. It's like, well, if she could do it by herself, then definitely in my position, and I'm married to, the two of us, we could definitely do this, She gave us a great foundation, and that's what I just ran with.
I love hearing that. For my listeners, your sister is my BFF. Forever. And
right.
And she's an amazing physician, first lady, great mother,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic cook. I hate that I don't live near her. Really, I do. And so I know the difference that your mom made in who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes without saying that
Yes.
we're influenced by our mothers, but your mom raised 3 children who have excelled in life. And I just
Yes.
think that's worth acknowledging.
Right. Thank you.
So what about the accomplishment that impresses others?
Well, I don't know if it impresses anybody, but I mean, it's just things that I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a pilot. So I took that opportunity, when business was great and I had the funds. One day I just sat down with my accountant and I said, we're doing all these events all across the state of California, and I'm driving here and driving there. And this is when George Bush was in office, the son, and he had a tax incentive where if you purchased equipment for your business, you could write it off. It was something about the depreciation that was better than it was before. So he goes, well, an airplane is a business expense, and you could write it off, blah 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 blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this time out. I'm gonna do it. So I of course incorporated the plane in the business. So I would actually fly to gigs. We even had a contract for about 4 years with Caltrans, and I was doing a video, actually photography work for them down in the San Diego area. So what I would do is I would leave Fresno at like 7 in the morning. I would fly down to San Diego, get there about 9:30. I'd pick up another pilot, and he would fly the plane. And I would shoot about 1,000 photos of all this highway construction going on all down in the San Diego area. And then I would drop him back off after a couple of hours of that, and I would fly home. And I'd be home before 5 o'clock. And
Wow.
my wife, she was just like, "You're back already?" It's like, that's what you can do with an airplane,
That's
go all the way to San Diego, work, and come back and be home before dinner, And so, some people that aren't pilots might be impressed with that. When 2011 rolled around, and there was for me, actually, it started in 2008, but I rolled it all the way out to 2011 before I really had to kind of shutter things. And so I got into the oil business. I heard about what was happening in North Dakota at that time. Was the oil boom that was going on. And I was like, well, let me go check this out. So I actually drove to North Dakota, got there, and all over the state, there's all these brand new wells just going up everywhere. And I said to myself, I wasn't around for the gold rush, but I'm gonna get a piece of this oil money, So
I love that.
I had no experience. Actually, take it back. I had started truck driving school, so I had like 30 days of driving experience. I really didn't know what I was doing, but I passed the test, had the license. I said, well, I'm gonna get a truck, and I'm gonna come out here. I found a company that would take somebody with no experience, and I bought a truck, and I drove out to North Dakota with this truck. And let me tell you, Robin, I was so fresh that sometimes as I was driving to North Dakota, right, I would forget what gear I was in, because I had to downshift or something, and I couldn't get it back in gear, and I'd be scratching. So I would literally, in the middle of the freeway, stop, come to a dead stop, and put it in second gear again and start over again. That's how fresh I was,
Oh, I love it.
And so I got out there, and they had the trailers and I had the truck. So, they call owner operator. And so you're working, you're your own business, but they take a percentage because they own the trailer. But, I got out there and took about a week to learn how to, what they call purchase oil. So you got to test it around the spot, kind of like a little chemist, And I was out there for 2 years through -40 weather, ice.
Whoa.
I'm thinking, and here's the funny part about being black. I'm being out there, because there wasn't too many black people out in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the drivers who were from that area are more experienced. And they told me this after the fact, because I proved myself. But they said, Tyrone, when we saw you come out here as a black guy, it's no offense, man, but we were taking bets on how long you'd last. Being a black guy from California and never experienced nothing under 30 degrees. And they said, man, you proved us wrong. I said, hey, and so some of those same guys are lifelong friends and helped me so much when I was out there. And even now, I still talk to these guys. They call me, hey, man, what are you doing? And just stay in touch. So it was a great experience. So, some people may be impressed with that too. I don't know.
Okay, so I just got to know, what was the lowest temperature that you were in while you were out there?
It was below -40, and I can't even describe it. Have you ever been in that type of weather?
No.
It is, you can't even describe it. You just have to say, you got to go experience it for yourself, because it is no joke. And let me just tell this quick story. One day I was going to hire a driver, so I was training him. We get out of the truck, and at that time you had to go on top of the wells. So you're up about 30 feet or so in the air. But if North Dakota, if you know anything about their topography, there's no trees. So that wind comes down from Canada, and it's just blowing like crazy. So anyway, you got wind that's blowing like crazy. You got temperatures that are negative, 35 and 40 to 50 degrees. So we step out of the truck, and I look at him. I go, I don't care how much money we're going to make today. We're going to die out here. We're leaving. So I literally jump back in the truck, and we're driving back to where a house I was renting. And I said, man, it is so cold out here. I hope that we don't break down, and I hope I don't run into anybody who is broken down, because when you're out there, you feel an obligation to help people because it's so desolate.
Mm-hmm.
So we're driving, and we're about a mile from the place I was renting. We come up over this little hill, and on the other side is this SUV stuck in the snow up against a fence. And I'm like, oh no, we got to stop and help this guy, right? Mm-hmm. And the roads are so narrow back there. There's no shoulder. I mean, so literally I just stopped right in the middle of the road. And the guy jumped out, walked over to the guy, and he asked him, hey man, you all right? He goes, well, my car won't move. He goes, well, can you put it in reverse? He puts it in reverse, the engine just revs up. well, put it in drive. Puts it in drive. The engine just revs up. So the tires don't even spin. So he goes, well, I think you might have broken your drive line. So where you going? He goes, well, I came from this well. There was a well that they were building right on the street that I was on. Well, it's not even a street. It's a dirt road. He goes, well, we can take you back there. We're going that same direction, right? The guy goes, okay. The guy I'm training gets back in the truck. And he says, hey, we're going to give this guy a ride to that well over there. I said, no problem. We're sitting in the car. I'm in the truck. And the dude's just sitting in the car. He hasn't moved. I said, I thought you said he was coming. He says, he did say he was coming. Literally just getting out of the truck and walking to the front of the truck. My ears and my hands were on fire. I mean, it was just so cold. And I yelled at this dude. I said, hey, I thought you said you were coming. He goes, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So he rolls the windows up on his car. He gets out and he's walking towards me. And all he has on is a t-shirt. Now, I am from head to toe in all this winter garb. And I'm looking at this guy going, there's something wrong with this picture. So I get in the truck. He gets in the truck and he closes the door. And I look at him and I go, hey, man, aren't you cold? And as soon as I said that, just whiff of just, I don't know if it was meth or what, but it was like, it was definitely drugs, just like came over all of us. I'm thinking, this dude is high. And he has no sensory, perception of how cold it is. This cat probably would have froze out there if we had not have, come across him. He's like, no. I'm like, dude, you were so high, you don't even know that you're freezing to death. We took him to the well that was being built and said, good luck to you, man. But yeah, that weather is no joke.
Wow. So I think it's clear you saved a life,
Yeah.
You'll never know, but it certainly seems like that is what would,
Well, right around that same week, there was a boyfriend and girlfriend that they actually froze to death. It wasn't in the same town, but it was in the same vicinity. And they were high on meth. And they called the police department and said, hey, there's some black guys chasing us. They were so high, they were looking at cows. But they thought they were, black dudes chasing them. And the cops were like, where are you? And they gave their home address, but they weren't at home. They were out in the country. But they found them the next day frozen to death. So that's, the kind of weather, that weather will kill you out there.
Okay.
But the money was awesome.
It would need to be. So I'm gonna ask you about words. What's your quote, quote, saying, book, whatever?
It's scripture is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not into thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him and he shall direct thy path. And that has been my scripture and my motto since I actually started the endeavor of going into business for myself. Because I know every time that phone rang, it was God, providing for me and my family. I never to this day, never take anything for granted. And knowing that just by putting him first and trusting in him, that's the reason where I am today.
Is there a person, moment, event that stands out for you? One that may have changed the trajectory of your life, or it's just one that, stands out as so important?
Well, one saying my mom would always tell us, all three of us, and it stuck. Because my mother was not only a great mother, but she was a teacher and she was a disciplinarian. I mean, we called her Sergeant White, and she was called Sergeant White because she didn't play,
Wait. Hold on. Did you guys actually call her Sergeant White, like to her?
No, not to her face.
I was gonna say.
But we refer, hey, Sergeant White, go get you, because she was training us up, as we should be trained, so that when we get old, we wouldn't depart from the word. So, but I remember her telling us specifically, and it just stuck with me. She would always say that. She would say, look, you're not going to get out there and do like every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I don't know if you've heard that saying before.
Oh, yes.
But if you do get out there and you get yourself in trouble and you end up in jail, you're going to stand there because I don't have no money to get you out. And we're like, ooh, we ain't going to jail. And that stuck with me. I'm like, I'm not going to jail because my mama can't bail me out. And another thing was my Aunt Rail. She was my great aunt. The day of my father's funeral, after the funeral was over and everyone had left, she came over to the house and she pulled me and Tony to the side because Tony was probably 14 and I was probably, I think, 9. And she pulled me and Tony to the side and she says, look, your dad is gone and your mother's here by herself with just you kids. And the two of you are going to have to be men now and help your mom and raise your sister. And that just like, wow. You know, all this kind of plays into how I think I became a good father and just trying to be a good person, period, you know. And we helped Donna. We tried to help Donna where we could, you know, as big brothers and so forth. I know I think I bought her first car, even though it was a piece of junk, but she, you know, she could drive it at the time. And then thankfully we had friends down there that one of them was a mechanic. So anytime Donna's car broke down, Jerry, can you help? Can you help?
That's
and so,
great.
Yeah.
What moment or event highlights your experience as a Black man in America?
Well, I think everything I've been saying kind of highlights my moment as a Black man. I'm just out here just getting the opportunity to do what I love doing, you know, was playing instruments, being a musician, piloting my own airplane. You know, I was also a drum major in the marching band, so I was always out in front. You know, from junior high, I was a drum major, and through high school for 3 years, I was a drum major, and then 2 years at Fresno State. So, you know, I was kind of always out in the front. I was just always trying to represent, no matter where I was or what I was doing. You know.
Again, kind of goes back to representing what's the full breadth of being an African American man, redefining and moving past stereotypes.
I do that. So here's a couple of instances, and I know this kid's gonna remember this the rest of his life. There was this kid, and I was DJing a school dance, right? And he was just so in awe that I was Black and had all this equipment, and he kept coming up to me, you know, man, are you sure this is your equipment? Wow, this is nice equipment. Blah 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 blah. You know, he's just like following me like this little bitty minion, you know. And he was there when I was setting up during the dance. He was watching me. After the party was over, I'm tearing down. He's like right there. I'm thinking, do you have a home? You know? So anyway, I just stood up and I looked at him and I said, hey, I'm going to tell you something that you're going to remember the rest of your life. You want to know what it is? And he goes, what? I stopped and I paused. And I said, guess what? He goes, what? I said, Black people can own things too. And he couldn't say nothing. He didn't say anything. He just like, oh. And he walked away. And there have been other instances, and one in particular that really stood out was there was an old man at a wedding, and I had walked out. I mean, the people were arriving, but I had walked out to my car to get something out of the car. I was already set up, music playing, and the guests were arriving, and something came up that the DJ was Black. And most of my weddings were my clients were white people. So I could play a white party, I could play a Hispanic party, I could play a Black party. I think that just goes with the diversification, you know. And anyway, I was behind him, and he didn't know I was behind him. So he said something about, oh Lord, we got a Black DJ, something to that effect. I didn't get mad. I said, he gonna learn something today. He gonna learn something today. With his old self, he gonna learn that a brother can rock any type of party. And I had those people jumping up and down. He over in the corner dancing. But I had to go back. I demystified his belief that all I could do was go yo 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 and play Black music. I don't get mad. I just demystify their belief.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And you know, there have been times, you know, where I've rolled up to an airport in my plane, and you know, they got the guy out there who's taxiing, and then I turn the plane off to open the door. And he's like, "Whoa, a brother," you know. And I was like, "Yeah, that's right. black people can own things too. That's how you get them.
Pilot them. And pilot them.
That's right. I mean, stop getting mad. Stop busting stuff up. Demystify them. Blow them away by what you have. I mean, we live in a predominantly white neighborhood. We have some black people living in our, but predominantly it's white school. We even had a kid brought my daughter home from school one day, and they rolled up to drop her off, and then the girl says, "Are you sure you live here? Are you sure you live here?" So we gotta just don't get mad. It's a lot of ignorance, but we just gotta demystify their beliefs and what we can own, what we can do. We already know what we can do and what we can own. And
have you had any experiences with law enforcement?
I have. And you got a minute?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna take it from a different angle because I've been a gun owner for many years, and I've also been a CCW holder, concealed weapons permit holder for many years. This happened on the exact day of September 11, 2001. I was in Eureka doing a sound job, and I had to be back down in Sacramento for another sound job. But of course, I had to go back to Fresno, grab gear at my office, and then, for the next following day, it's like a 2-day period there. I had a window, but everything was chaotic. That's where they shut down the flights and rental cars, and it was people were just trying to get where they were trying to go, and they didn't know exactly what was going on. So I had a rental van, like a Dodge Caravan at the time, and I left one of my guys up there in Eureka, and I'm coming back, and I'm flying, man, because as you're listening to the radio, we're finding out throughout the day what was really happening,
Yes.
That it was terror. And I'm like, man, are these people in the country, or, so I had my gun cocked, and I had it in the center console, dead, in the open. And I'm driving, there's a lake called Clear Lake, which is way up north. And there's a road called Highway 20, and it's pretty desolate. So, in 2001, I can't recall if the speed limit was 55, which I'm probably assuming it was, but I was doing about 70. And it's kind of windy and curvy. And I come up over this hill, and down at the bottom of this hill was a highway patrolman. I know he's going to get me. So I put my foot on the brake and kind of didn't look at him, thinking he's not going to see me. Anyway, I looked in the rearview mirror. He flipped the U. Threw his lights on. I'm like, oh, man. So he pulls me over. I rolled down the window. I have my hands on the steering wheel, the gun's in plain sight, and he leans into the car, and he's a white officer. Okay, he's a white officer. He leans into the car, and he goes, "You're going pretty fast there, huh?" And I said, "Yes, officer." But you were taught in class to let the officer know that you have a gun. So I go, "Yes, officer. I was going fast, but before we go any further, I'm a CCW holder, and I have my weapon with me." And he looked at me. He goes, "Where's your gun?" I said, "Right there." I didn't take my hands off the wheel or nothing. I just nodded with my head and pointed to my eyes, right there. And he goes, "You got your permit with you?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "Okay, let me see it." So I pull out my wallet, hand it to him. He looks at it. He goes, "Okay, you know what? Leave the gun here. Just come on back to my car, and we'll take care of the ticket." That was it. He was a white officer. So there's a point I'm getting to this. So I go back, ticket. We talk about what's going on that day, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to drop it down so you can go to traffic school, blah blah blah." I said, "All right, well, thank you." He goes, "All right, have a good day." That was it. It was just me and him out in the middle of nowhere. Anything could have happened. He was so professional, cordial, no big deal. A year later, I'm in Los Angeles doing a sound job. And being a pilot, I had some time. We got done early with one of the meetings I was doing. And so I just was hanging out, on this parking lot. I had brought my aircraft radio with me, and I'm just listening to the pilots taking off and landing and so forth, just enjoying the, the evening. It was maybe dusk. And this black officer rolls up. he says, "Hey man, what you doing out here?" I said, "Oh, I'm just relaxing. I'm a pilot. I'm in town for business, and I'm just listening to the airplanes take off and landing." I said, "But officer," I did the same thing. "But officer, before we go any further, I'm a CCW holder and I have my weapon with me." "Get out of the car, put your hands up." Blah, 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 blah. I was like, "What?"
Wow.
"Put your hands up, get on the ground, put your hands on your head." Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, whoa, whoa. And all I could think about was, remember Rodney King? So I didn't say a word to the man. I didn't try to argue with him. He started calling for backup. I could hear ambulance, I could hear sirens from all over LA. They brought bomb sniffing dogs. They
Are
had me
you
on the ground. Now,
serious?
and most of the officers were Hispanic or black. And they were asking me, "Why you got a gun? Why you got a gun? Why you got a gun?" I'm like, "It's for business. I mean, we don't." And they put me in handcuffs, put me on the curb. "We're going to check, make sure this gun is legal. Blah, 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 this and that and that." I'm like, "Go ahead." I just told them, "Go ahead. Go ahead." They call Fresno PD. "Yeah, we got a gentleman here who says he has a permit, and here's the number, and blah, 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 this." And they go, "Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. White, we're so sorry. Here's your gun, here's your bullets, and we're sorry. We're sorry for overreacting." But,
Wow.
with them overreacting, and I knew I'm in the right, I'm not going to escalate by now talking back to them because they're in control. I'm like, I know this is going to get worked out. I didn't say a single word. I just did exactly what they said. So there's a difference between a white officer and a black officer. I know we have issues, things that are going on and things that we've seen, but it really comes down to that individual person. Once again, we live in a predominantly white neighborhood. I've already told my wife and kids, look, if we ever have to call the police over here for robbery, burglary, anything, you let that dispatcher know that the family here is black, because it's just a natural assumption. You live in a nice house, white neighborhood, you're gonna be white. So anybody that's just not white, it's got to be the suspect.
Yes.
So we've made that clear. Look, we got guns. If there's somebody here trying to get into the house, I am going to use it. So, but you let them know that the homeowner is the victim and not the perpetrator.
Yes.
So, but I think
Yes.
that's just something it's just something we got to deal with. What happened to George Floyd was uncalled for. But as a black man too, we can't just take everything. We can't just take everything that every cop is bad. All law enforcement is horrible. Every judge is out to get us. I mean, that's just not how I believe a role. So, but some people may disagree with me. Other people have had other life experiences with police officers. I am aware of the prejudice and the racial profiling that goes on, but I just try to not escalate it by, I'm sorry, Robin, I have to go on about this.
No, please.
This is something that, as a black man, we have to stop running, because when you run, I tell my girls this, regardless if it's wrong or right, they are going to bring a whooping to you, regardless. And whatever the consequences are, you're going to suffer those because you started fighting, resisting, running. Now, like I said, people may disagree with this, but I'm telling you, even though it is wrong, you've opened yourself up to whatever they are going to bring. So we have to, as black men especially, first of all, we need to obey the law. I am not defending the police. All I'm saying is there are a lot of cases they are wrong, period, out of the box, like with George Floyd. But as black men, we have got to shut our mouths. And I know people are going to say, well, what about Alonda Cosillo? Yes, that's another case. But I'm just saying we have just got to be still, put our hands on the wheel, don't say a word, don't question. If they ask for this or that, give it to them. Now, if they do go on and you find out that it is police brutality, yeah, that's another thing. But we can't give them because they want an excuse to beat us. So if we give them an excuse, running, resisting, they're going to bring a whooping with them, guaranteed. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So that's my two
Well,
thoughts. I mean,
you know, as a educator, one of the classes I teach is law.
mm-hmm,
And whenever I cover criminal procedure, I always make sure that I have students watch this video. It's called 10 Rules for Dealing with the Police.
mm,
And that in some communities, the antagonism to the police is so strong. And so this video kind of covers like what some of the consequences can be. Legal
mm-hmm,
consequences, not the whooping, not the beat down consequences, but the other ones.
mm,
And so I find that whenever I show that video to students, I teach at a school where over 80% are on free lunch, right? So there's
okay, mm-hmm,
a certain, you know, socioeconomic status there. And even though they laugh, because the video is, you know, it's got some funny scenes in it and whatnot,
mm-hmm,
but you can hear the wheels turning. They even make fun of having taught these rules. They'll say in video, don't say, I know my rights, blah, 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 right?
right.
Because that is going to trigger the police. And so it's interesting to realize, like, your mom taught you. You grew up in a community that taught you how to interact with police. You know to
Mm-hmm,
tell your children, hey, if you call the police, tell them we're African American and we live here and we're calling on someone entering our home, right?
right.
And I know that it's common in our communities for I know nearly every family has a conversation about dealing with the police. What I don't know is what I know actually is that it doesn't always give them the information they need to be effective in that interaction. So yeah, I think it surprised me to realize how many young people don't know how to interact with police and why they need to do it that way. Neighbor, friend, lover, mother, stranger, it's not necessarily romantic, but if America was a woman, what would you say to her, Tyrone?
I would say just respect me, respect my views, and you may have a difference of opinion, a different look, but just respect me. Just leave me alone. I know what I want to do, and just stay out of my way and don't try to stop me.
Clear.
So
So
I wanted to say about that gunmemorial.org. So for your listeners,
yes,
gunmemorial.org, you know, we're focused on police brutality because it is there, but there's a lot of us killing a lot of us. And you go on that gunmemorial.org and you just see all the wonderful, beautiful faces who've lost their lives to gun violence. And it's not the police. You know, just what is like 6,600 people or something like that? No, or is it 66,000? I can't recall the exact number, but it's just amazing. You go and you see this black guy, this black guy, this black girl, this black guy, this black girl, this black. You're thinking, these aren't all police shootings, you know? Why in Chicago, every weekend, we're getting 24, 35, 40 people shot? But yet we're saying, oh, the police are the man trying to hold me down. It's like, well, why are you shooting your brother?
mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't make any sense. So we have some issues within the black community that we need to address as well.
Agreed. Yeah. Which love could help. So
Yeah.
what is love to you?
Love is an unconditional commitment. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth him should not perish but have everlasting life. He sacrificed his life for us that we may have eternal life. So that was unconditional. And to us, and to me, love is the love that I can provide for my wife, my kids, my community, is that I can love them unconditionally. And that's what it means to me.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on yet that challenges the stereotype of black men?
First of all, I think as men, period, we need to be the leaders and the head of our household, but a godly head, so that if we're following, Christ, we're going to lead our family the right way. No matter where I am in public, I'm trying to throw off and show everyone that, hey, I'm a godly man. I'm trying to live a godly life. I'm here to help, but I'm not here to antagonize or to steal, but I'm here to get the same thing out of life that you are.
My last question is,
Uh-huh.
having participated in this interview, is there anything that you're present to, or that that you now see, or just something you want to share from the interview?
I think you're doing an awesome job. I think you're doing an awesome thing here. I think you're going to bring to light a lot of different Black men's perspectives of life, because we're all going to have, even though we're Black, we still have many different experiences, life experiences. And I think it's just going to be an opportunity for people to see on another level. They're not just looking at TV and seeing LeBron James or Stephen Curry. Well, they're basketball stars, but even them, what do you know about them besides playing basketball? They have a heart. They love their children. They love their wives. Shaquille O'Neal just got his doctorate or something like that, in
Wow.
education. And that's what she was saying the other day. That's what she heard. So, here you got a guy who's got all the money in the world already, but yet he's still striving. We're not just ball players and musicians, but we're fathers and husbands and lawyers and doctors and teachers and attorneys and and everything. So
thank you. For me, this particular interview with you, who I'm left with that you are is a man who takes your life as an example, that you live every moment of your life as a godly example, an example of fatherhood, an example of being a community leader, an example of being someone who is committed to living his best life and does that. And it's in the doing of it. It's like your life is in the doing of it that provides the example. And it's an awesome example that you have provided. So thank you for all that you do to live your best life.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for listening. As you can hear, you do not want to miss any of these brothers. Make sure you subscribe. You can find more at our website, 365brothers.com, 365brothers.com. This is Robin Shine. To listen is to love.